Alright, so in this video we're going to take a look at the basics of how to sculpt. So I'm going to go ahead and divide my model up to about 7. And I just want to reiterate something here. I don't have SMT checked on. If I click on divide and I have SMT checked on, you'll notice that it smooths it out. And that's not what I want. I don't want it to smooth out the topology. All I want it to do is just add extra subdivision. So if I turn on polyframe here, you can see that's wireframe mode. If I hit divide, you'll think, oh, nothing happened. Well, uncheck polyframe and check it on. You notice that it added a subdivision directly in the middle of these two verts here. So it does a pretty good job of averaging your vertices. So I'm going to take this up to 7. Okay. Now the next thing I do whenever I sculpt is I change my overall layout or my paneling inside of ZBrush. So I like to use this particular interface. So I click back once, and what it does is it loads all of my brushes at the bottom. It doesn't mean that I'm restricted to only these brushes, it just loads the ones that I use most. So for example, say I'm like, you know what, I don't really use the Z project, so I'm going to click on that, and it brings up all these other options. And I'm like, you know, I use the clay build-up tool a little bit more than the Z project. You'll notice it swaps it out for you. So I'm going to pause the video right now, and I'm going to line up the reference with my actual dumpster. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck my polyframe off to the side here, and let's see if I could divide it even higher. Looks like I can't. I might have to play with the memory, and that does a great deal of crashing and stuff inside of ZBrush. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I notice that there's a nice seam here that I'm missing in my model. And what I don't want to do is I don't want to push in the seam all the way to the edge of this piece here. So I'm just going to hold Control down. And what that does is that allows you to mask the area so you can't sculpt on it. And that's through this really dark area. Now mind you, it updated this, it did the same thing on the other side. See that? And the way it did that was because I have X on, or symmetry. And you do that by pressing the X key. Okay, so let's get inside of here. And you'll have to forgive me if it looks a bit crude. I'm actually using a mouse and not a tablet. So I'm just going to select my standard brush. And you'll notice here that it has a pretty hard edge here for the way that it's pushed in, or it has a pretty low fall off. So what I'm going to do is, again, increase my brush size. And you can do this in two ways. Below the minus and plus keys, there's two brackets, and they allow you to expand, or by holding spacebar. Now, when you hold spacebar down, it gives you pretty much all of these options grouped together. So, example, draw size is the size of your brush. Focal shift is how much of a fall off there is on your brush. So, for example, say I bring this way down, and I draw into my model. You'll notice, here, let me hold Alt to push that in. You'll notice that it has more of a rounder fall off. But if I hold it down and I bring my focal shift down to -100, you'll notice that it has a hard edge in there. And I'll use that hard edge for the rust, but for this I want a little bit less of a hard edge, so something like that. Alright, so all I'm going to do at this point is I go ahead and hold Alt down, and just from that edge, notice that we have this masked off. Let me go a little bit smaller than that. Holding Alt down, and I'm just going to go back and forth a little bit, and it's okay if it's crude because it's not perfectly straight on the dumpster either. This thing's been beaten up for a while. Start over with that. I'm going to go a little bit quicker. And when you go quicker, you'll notice that your arm can do a little bit straighter of an edge. Now I want to build up a little bit this edge here. So I'm going to bring my intensity down pretty low, maybe about 10. And just kind of trace out a little bit of a, just kind of elevate that edge a little bit more to really accentuate that when people see my model. A little bit more. Okay. Now I want there to be, whoa, looks like it. Better. Now, I don't like the hardness that's around this edge, so I'm just going to hold Shift to select my smooth tool, and I'm just going to smooth off that edge that's down there. Something like this. Alright, so we get a nice little kind of indenture there. Now I want to build my rust off of this. So what I'm going to do is, again, increase my brush size a little bit. And I love doing this kind of detail work. I get really meticulous and I end up losing myself in it. I'm going to hold spacebar down, bring my focal shift down all the way to 100 because rust has a harder edge. And again, I'm just going to sort of use this as a reference and sort of copy it. So holding Alt, just going to kind of eat away at that area a little bit. I'm honestly just following the way my reference looks here. Okay. And I'm trying to be, I'm not trying to have major jumps or anything because I don't want it to look too symmetrical on both sides. See that? Just allowing it to kind of, a little bit like that. Maybe a few scuff marks here and there. Again, I kind of want to avoid anything that looks too symmetrical. Same thing up here. Kind of weather the dumpster down a little bit. Now, something I like to use sometimes too is alphas. If you click on alpha here, and I'll show you in another tutorial how to make the actual alphas. They kind of give you some custom ones. So, this example alpha 32 here, right? I can actually, by holding Alt down, it'll actually create sort of a pattern. Now, and you could hold Shift and just kind of smooth out some of that. And then again, you're just kind of helping to weather away that dumpster a little bit more. Helps show like more of a beat up feel. Here too. Again, I am just looking at the reference here. Same thing here. I notice there's a bit of rust build-up there. I'll turn my alpha off. Again, you notice there's a little bit of height that's built up there. So, and ordinarily I don't work from a photo. I don't really work from somebody else's concept unless I really know the concept artist. But I really like this piece here. Okay, and I'm going to smooth it off down here. Okay, you get the general idea. So instead of sitting and watching me do the entire dumpster, what we're going to do in the next video is I'm going to show you how to create a normal map from this model using XNormal.